It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on Monday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, where it's 100 degrees again today, we welcome you coming off this great sports weekend to the Monday Bonus Podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host with his red-hot opinions in this red-hot weather, broadcasting from a hallway in his castle, John Riley. We welcome you to our podcast. It's brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 8 locations to serve you in San Diego and Southern California. You got projects, they got materials, you want ideas, they can be your best friend, they will help you. And because of this brutally hot weather, think windows, think doors, think DIXIELINE Lumber. Go to DIXIELINE.com to see all the things they have to offer. John Riley, good afternoon. Nice to see you in the cool confines of the hallway at your castle. I'm sitting here in the cool confines of my house. I can't freaking believe 11 straight days of heat index more than 90 degrees and over 100 here in Lynn, North County. How are you?
It's a blast furnace here. You know, the blowtorch signal is beaming. You know what, Hacksaw? I just see the picture of you with the picture of you over your shoulder. It's kind of like when you go into an old family member's house and they got a picture of the Pope up on the wall. You know, so that's like Pope Hacksaw right there.
Yeah. Yes. I bless you. All right, listen, we're going to go a lot of different directions. Got a lot of topics on the table. We do sports talk the way it should be done. Topics, opinions, but we do something extra for free. We let you participate. It's what we call Fans Forum. We got regulars. We want first-timers to jump on board too. John, describe how we came up with the idea to do Fans Forum and how those on live stream on the different platforms we're on live, how they can jump on board.
Well, I think the idea came from you, right? When you were doing it on the radio, you know, getting people to call in, comments and questions. So yeah, we're just doing it in the digital age. If you got a comment or question for Hacksaw, drop your hot take in the live chat, YouTube, X, and Facebook. And I already see Godzilla versus Megalon, Flash Baney, Do You Love It? They're all in the house ready to go, Lee.
Listen, you can help us grow this podcast. We're in our 4th year, putting topics on the table, Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Share and subscribe. Tell everybody who we are Mondays and Thursdays on the YouTube channel. And when you subscribe, you will get the alerts every time we post additional videos up on the YouTube channel. Help us grow this thing in this 4th year. Give us a thumbs up. Where's the follow button? Give us a 5-star rating on Apple. It really helps us a great deal. Want you to check what I write. I write sports every day. It's on my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. First thing in the morning, you should check the best 15 minutes in sports and my one man's opinion column. And when you're done with that, register to get the newsletters. John and I send out 2 sports newsletters every day. You can do that by joining Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Just register right there on the homepage on the website. John, I'm ready. We're baseball centric. This is really a big week for Padre baseball. Let's talk about where they are at this hour. We'll start with the playoff chase. Padres, pretty hot stretch of baseball. Padres, they've won 12 of 16. Padres, a game out of a wild card spot. Padres, they still got some big teams left to play on the schedule. Padres, I'm asking for patience right now as it relates to Robbie Ray, Casey Mize. The 2 initial outings, really tough. Mize is going to make his second start in Friar colors tonight against Milwaukee, and then obviously Robbie Ray will look for a bounce-back start later in the week. I think the big storyline is the rocket shots that Fernando Tatis is hitting. You know, they should start giving out batting helmets to anybody that's going to sit in those seats in the Western Metals building. Man, has he hit some rocket shot home runs there, including a 421-foot blast into the 3rd deck at the Western Metals building. I mean, his power has come back. He's done a good job. Manny Machado's disappeared again. Machado is in an 8 for 44 hole. That's sub 200 again over the last couple of weeks. Gavin Sheets, despite an odd home run, he's batting less than 200 again. His struggles have continued. Obviously, Jackson Merrill's really heated up. Morione and Miller just lights out in the bullpen. Starting rotation, for the most part, has been solid at the front end with Michael King, with the follow-up with Walker Buehler. And oddly, Randy Vasquez has had back-to-back pretty consistent outings. So right now, the Padres have kind of pushed themselves back into the wild card race. I did a thing on KUSI, John, that said Padres trade themselves back into the playoff race with these acquisitions of Robbie Ray and Casey Mize. I think they did. So at the end of the day, the Padres have it right there in front of them to claim, but right there in front of them is really hard because they're going to get Milwaukee next. And Milwaukee comes in 30 games over 500. Milwaukee is 74-44. And John, I look at this Milwaukee roster and I say, really? They're in first place, best record American League. They don't have frontline starting pitching. And there was a chunk about a month ago where they lost 3 starters in a week. And I thought, oh, are they in a world of hurt? But they do have Jacob Misiorowski. But he can only pitch once every 5 days. The unique one is Aaron Ashby. He's 13-2. This guy was a journeyman career minor leaguer. The one they stole in the trade from the Cubs, Kyle Harrison, he's 9-2. But it's also a team that lost Brandon Woodruff, amongst others, to injury. In terms of the batting order, they put the ball in play. But, Christian Yelich is only batting .233. Jackson Chourio, the power-hitting outfielder, is only hitting in the 250s. But collectively, they put the ball in play, make things happen. Team batting average is .253. Team ERA, a very impressive 3.48. Of course, Misiorowski is ahead of that. Good news, Musgrove, second rehab outing, pretty solid. No setbacks so far. Pivetta, they kind of hit the pause button. They think he's going to throw another bullpen. If there's no setbacks in the bullpen, maybe Tuesday, then maybe Thursday, they send him back to maybe Lake Elsinore for try to reboot. So right now, I feel better about where the Padres are. Obviously, still waiting to see what Robbie Ray and Casey Mize deliver. But, John, here's the schedule. 3 with first place Milwaukee. Milwaukee, 30 games over 500. Then they go on the road for 6 at Cleveland, and they play the Mets. And, John, they still have a huge road trip in front of them, and they still have to play first place Tampa Bay. Here come the Yankees getting healthy, and then the Dodgers towards the end of the season. So, John, I've given you kind of a big capsule summary of the Padres where they are right now. You pleading patience with these starting pitchers? What do you think of this batting order? What do you think about what's left on the schedule starting tonight with the Brew Crew?
Well, I think overall the Padres have a relatively easy schedule the rest of the way compared to the rest of the National League. Now, granted, Milwaukee's a hell of a team. But, this season has been such a roller coaster, Lee. They're up, they're down, they're sideways. You're optimistic, you're pessimistic. And, they won 2 out of 3 against Houston, and you're like, all right. And you saw them, like you said, that home run by Tatis just seems so effortless. The way he's able just to launch those balls out of the yard. There's a lot to be thankful for. Even that kid, Austin, what's his name? Austin Hayes had the bomb. So there's a lot to like there. But, when I think about the Milwaukee Brewers, the player that is curious to me is always Christian Yelich. I remember in 2016, I went to the World Baseball Classic when the U.S. played the Dominican Republic at Petco in the semifinals. It was a hell of a game. And I remember Yelich was very young then, and he was the number 3 batting in the batting order for Team USA. And I was like, holy crap. I didn't realize this Miami Marlin player, which is who he played for at the time, was that good. But in those late 2000 teen years, he was great, but he has really tailed off a lot. I mean, his production numbers are nowhere near what they used to be.
It's interesting because he was traded to Miami because it's same old Miami syndrome. Young player, we're not going to pay him, we're going to move him. He went to Milwaukee and he got a big extension. What was big at that point, I think it was $15 million per year. I was kind of stunned. Now, he's put up good numbers, he's put up consistent numbers, but he's had a lot of nagging injuries. He's not been the power hitter in Milwaukee that I thought Yelich would be. But I guess if the guy hits 260, 270 consistently with some pop, that's okay. But he's having a bit of a substandard year this year, but he's also been dinged. I think it's the second or third year in a row he's had nagging injuries there. Obviously, Churio is the one to watch because I think he's the one that's got the big power hitting capabilities there. And he got hurt in the middle of the season. Now he's back, but he's not hitting 300 at this point in time. They have homegrown a lot of players organizationally. I think that's a really well-run operation. And like I say, they got Mizorowski. Now, Padres are awful lucky. They haven't faced Mizorowski. They haven't faced Paul Skeens when he was at the top of his game. So the Padres have been a little bit lucky because I wanted the fans here to see Jake and his 100-plus mile-an-hour fastball. But he pitched yesterday, so he is not going to pitch in this series. Patience. You got any patience with Robbie Ray? What do you think about Casey Mize? I was kind of, that first outing for either one of those guys was really a letdown.
Yeah, those guys will be fine. I mean, because I think Casey Mize had gone something like 11 days since he had pitched. He was out of his regular rhythm. Robbie Ray wasn't the same either, but, the theory is always that these guys are trying hard to prove that they're legit, that they're worthy of the trade. They want to win the fans over right away. So I'm not too worried about those guys. If those guys just pitch the way they should pitch, the Padres pitching staff is in a lot better shape. And to your point, Musgrove is just right around the corner. So things are turning here, and they took 2 out of 3 from a first place team over the weekend. If they can do the same thing with Milwaukee, then, my opinion on this team may change again.
Oh, you're like the flag waving in the wind at Wrigley Field. One day it's pointing this way, the other day it's pointing.
I'm telling you, man.
Okay, we'll see where this goes. Okay, you're a Padre fan. Jump on board with topic 1, where this team is right now. You subscribe to what I said on TV on KUSA on Saturday morning. AJ Preller has traded this team, this franchise, back into the wild card race by virtue of the trades for the 2 pitchers. Fans forum chat box is open. Here comes topic 2. Yeah, we're going to get some response to this one for sure. John, pop it up there.
Yeah, I saw you. Are you sure you want to go here, Lee?
Let's talk about Padre TV. And I bring this up because a newspaper guy brought it up to me. What's happened to the quality and the content of Padre TV? And I guess I should front end this segment by saying I really like those guys. Don and Mudd, Orsillo and Grant, Scanlon, Pomerantz. I like those guys. But I think they're missing a piece that could make it a really over-the-top quality broadcast. I'm really disappointed because the TV broadcast on Padre Baseball has become more of a circus, a sales pitch, a hype act, clown carnival, than it's become a quality baseball broadcast. The Padres are on national TV on NBC. I sat there and I'd rather watch that than watch Don and Mudd at this point in time. There's just way too much hype about this theme game, that theme game, this product they're giving away. Way too much over the top. I counted one time 11 theme game sales pitch promos in a 9-inning game from those guys. And that did not include the produced videos that would go where spot breaks would go. It's way too much. Where's the quality control? I think it's a misuse of the talent on a pretty good broadcast crew. It denigrates how good those 2 guys are. And those 2 guys are really good, but they're asking them to hype and sales pitch and theme game me to death. And you're not using good quality analysts with great background stories like Scanlon and Pomerantz who could add to the equation. I'll give you an example. Just this past week during Padre Telecast, as they were theme gaming me almost to the point of switching channels, they didn't talk about the trade deadline. Did not talk about the Padres trade deadline. Kind of meandered a little bit about, Giants are going to clean house. Didn't bring up any hot button items. I've been on this pedestal saying, you got the people there. Give me out-of-town updates because there's more games going on than just the Padres playing whomever. Tell me what the damn Dodgers are doing because we don't get the games down here. So give me updates, Dodger baseball or Angel baseball, or who's in first place. They don't mention Mizorowski in Milwaukee striking out 13 guys. They don't bring up any conversation about 17 pitches over 103 miles an hour. The other night, Kyle Harrison struck out 8 in a row in a game. No conversation. No conversation about Paul Skeens falling off the face of the earth with 9 starts in a row without wins in Pittsburgh. A's fired the general manager. Nobody talked about that. Angels asked their general manager. Oh, we can't bring that topic up. It's a Padre broadcast. Nobody wants to talk about the Red Sox winning 15 in a row and going 27-3. There's so many great baseball topics out there for this collection of really good broadcasters, a lot of background knowledge and history. Bring some of these topics to the table while you're doing Padre baseball. You don't need to theme game me every inning about this and that giveaway. Quality control. You've let this thing get away, and it's a good broadcast. It could be a great broadcast. I watched the NBC Game of the Week where the Padres were on this weekend. CC Sabathia, Jason Benetti, who I think is fabulous. And they had Jake Peavy, amongst the others, doing in-booth analyst work. They talked about every topic in Major League Baseball. I found that was fascinating. I find John Smoltz one of the most unique guys to pay attention to. I know they work for the Padres. I know this is under the MLB umbrella. But there's so many other ways to add interest to your broadcast aside from Mudcat screaming theme game, theme game, theme game multiple times an inning. Quality control. Anybody agree or disagree with me? And again, I preface what I said. These are 2 spectacular guys. That's a really good 4-man broadcast crew. Use them. And I want some out-of-town scoreboards with updates. And I want commentary from guys in the know who are in that clubhouse more than I am, around those players more than I am, who hear all the rumblings from other baseball people to talk about the other storylines in baseball. Quality control. Quality broadcast used to be an A. Right now it's a B- because they let this thing get away. And I don't like, if it's coming from Eric Grupner, you need to listen to your broadcast better. If it's coming from MLB baseball, you need to step back and let these smart people talk Major League Baseball. That's just one man's opinion, but I'm a fan, and I'm a broadcaster too. John, the table belongs to you.
Now you did it. Now you've touched the third rail. You're going to be turned into a pillar of salt, Lee. You're going to be damned to eternity for this criticism of the guys we love, Don and Mud, the Golden Boys. Come on. You know, they do have to play their corporate role and do their theme game stuff. But, you know, when they do that, it packs the stadium on a Tuesday night, you know, and it just creates that vibe that, you know, PV and Blummer and everybody else was talking about on Sunday Night Baseball. It's all part of the culture and atmosphere of Petco Park. I don't have a problem with it. It is a little bit much at times, but it's not a big deal. And I personally love what Don and Mud do, because Don is, for the most part, you know, a serious play-by-play guy that has a little bit of fun. He's what?
He's the straight man more times than not, and that's good. But yeah, he does go off on a tangent, and he leads the other guy down the road, and then he gets out of control.
I really love Mark Grant, because he just has this odd wit that just kind of gets me. Just sometimes just making reference to like really obscure pop culture, and I usually get it. Like a lot of his Fast Times references or Ferris Bueller references are great, but these guys are great. I mean, yeah, they get Scanlon involved. Come on, Lee. I mean, Scanlon is usually pulled in once or twice at least during the game, and Scanlon will tell stories about when he was a pitcher for the Phillies or the Cubs. So you still get some of it. I mean,
not enough. They're not talking about the big baseball stories out there.
Yeah, well, you know, I will say this is last night's game, with Peavy and Blum, and I don't know who the play-by-play guy was. They did a really good job. CC Sabathia was really good, I was pleased with it because usually the national game of the week when it was on ESPN could be kind of dull at times. So I thought the NBC crew, I know they're new to this. I think they're doing a great job. Maybe carrying the old NBC game of the week tradition. Tony Kubek, Joe Garagiola, right, Lee?
Exactly. I'll give you a prime example. When I was in Phoenix, I broadcast Phoenix Giants baseball, Pacific Coast League. And who was on the Giants pitching staff? Mark Grant. And there's so many unique stories. And one of them last night, Mark kind of touched on it, and then he wandered away to babble about something else. It's 200 degrees every day in Phoenix. And old Phoenix Municipal Stadium, that sucker was a cement block and it baked all day. And then you had to go to that clubhouse and sit in that hot dugout and it never cooled down. And Mark started to talk about, don't touch that water fountain. It's really hot. That kind of stuff. There's funny stuff they could talk about. And there's really I think the true baseball storylines they should talk about. And they don't do it. And they hardly ever do scoreboard updates.
But maybe they're being told to do that because you could get scoreboard updates on your phone, on your computer.
About watching the telecast, why not? And then why not an opinion about this guy striking out 8 batters in a row to start a game? Come on now.
You're a grouchy old man. You're like the old Muppet guy, like up in the mezzanine, just yelling at the stars, that are in the spotlight.
I'm a baseball fan. I'm a baseball junkie. And last I checked, it's my podcast. So I put topics on the table. But I wonder if other people out there, there's no doubt the broadcaster are fun. There's no doubt people are packing Petco Park. There's no doubt Tatis is hitting monster home runs into the Western Metals building. But at the end of the day, this broadcast could even be better, should be better, rather than cluttered. So I'll just ask the people, Padre fans, baseball fans, that headline that John just posted, Padres TV equals circus, agree or disagree? The fans forum chat box is open. And again, I preface everything with the fact I like Don, I like mud, but I want some quality control to what's on my television covering Padre baseball. Agree or disagree? John, be careful when you touch the laptop to bring up the fans forum comments. You might your finger.
There's already some burning hot takes in fans forum. Hey, just a little bit of a tangent, Lee. What's your take on the whole Mike Krukow retiring for the Giants?
It's a grind. When you're having a horrific season as the Giants are, it's no fun. I broadcast good teams. I broadcast bad teams. I can understand. But he's done it for 36 years. What a special team he and Dwayne Kuiper have made with the legendary Hall of Famer John Miller. No, I don't think those guys get enough true national.
Dave Fleming too.
Oh, and they're really good guys. So he's had a great career. Mike's got a lot of mileage on him. But I will tell you, 36 years of road trips and plane trips and ball games, and it never ever ends. I think baseball is the hardest grind because you're playing 162 games in 182 days. And there's travel and all that on top of it. It's different than the NFL. It's worse than the toughness of travel in the NBA and the NHL. But Krukow and Kuiper, I don't know whether they'll both be enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame because usually one guy who's had longevity is the one that gets in. But there's kind of a push in San Francisco and the Bay Area to put these two guys in simultaneously into the Ford Frick wing on behalf of the broadcasters. But Krukow's been good. I've known Kuiper since he was a player in Cleveland. Special individual. So good group of people.
The Ford Frick wing of Cooperstown. Yep. Yeah, I remember when Kuiper got traded to the Giants. Kuiper and Krukow both played for them in the 80s.
Yep. Yeah, good guys. Good guys. They're going to be missed for sure. Okay, so we've covered Padre baseball on the field and in the broadcast booth. So we want you to join us in Fans Forum. Agree or disagree? I want to hear what you've got to say. We're not done talking baseball. We're talking all things Dodgers.
Moving parts, Lee.
Oh, a lot of moving parts here. Did you ever think you and I would ever have this conversation, John Riley? Dodgers lost 8 of 9, 10 of 13, 15 of 24. The Dodgers. Ohtani has begun his throwing regimen. Very casual, soft toss in the outfield. Taking it slow because of the bicep, taking it slow because of the knee tendonitis. They're not even willing at this point to talk about when he's actually going to take a ball and go into a bullpen. Blake Snell, moving part, moves to the mound. Now, Tarek Skubal pitches tonight against Kansas City, makes his second start after a pretty good first start. Blake Snell is going to start tomorrow. A little surprised that they've pushed him back into the rotation as much as they have. But at the end of the day, when he sales pitch them, that all the numbness in my fingers are gone after we took that bone chip out, and he's throwing with velocity, more decent rehab outings than one bad rehab outing. I understand it. Now, Glass now has had a second straight solid rehab outing, but he's not ready. He's only thrown 2 innings so far. Yeah, that's the most extensive work he's had. So he's probably got 2 to 3 more rehab outings for the Dodgers. I don't know what they're going to do with Edwin Diaz. He has pitched 11-plus innings. He's given up 11-plus runs. His ERA is almost at 11.00. He's blown 2 saves in a row. They're leaning so much on Tanner Scott to get him out of hot water in the 7th or 8th inning. And Diaz goes out and screws it up in the 9th inning. One wild card may be a pitcher by the name of Chris Bubik, who they got from Kansas City. Now, he's been on the DL for a while with shoulder problems. He is throwing. He's about to go out on rehab. That guy was a closer in Kansas City and did very well till he got hurt middle of the season. Gavin Stone, Bobby Miller, both positive first rehab starts at Oklahoma City. They're not ready to pitch at the major league level right now. Batting order. Boy, Mookie Betts is hitting .224. Teoscar Hernandez, no home runs whatsoever. Their power output across the lineup has really dissipated. Yes, Max Muncy will pop an occasional home run, but he struggles to get his batting average above .240. Freeman's hitting .300, but he's not hitting with any power authority at all. And, of course, they don't have either one of their bigger bats behind home plate with no knowledge yet on Will Smith, Dalton rushing. So suddenly this is not the same batting order. And Dave Roberts, for the first time on the weekend on the road, brought up words like lack of intensity, lack of urgency, and we need to get back on the edge. So, John, this is not the Dodger baseball team that we have known forever and ever. I know there's 40-plus games to go. But, boy, they got a bunch of issues here that at this point they've not been able to solve. Reaction.
The dog days of summer, Lee. I mean, look at Robleski here. I mean, in the graphic, that guy has been getting blown up. I mean, he was so good, pitching so above expectation. Now he seems to be settling back to what he used to be.
I think he's fatigued. He's given up 9 home runs in 17 innings, 9 home runs in his last 3 starts. Has not been able to get beyond the 4th inning in any of those starts. So that, to me, is a wear and tear factor, I assume.
Well, no wonder they need Snell to start for this team. It is curious, though. I mean, think about Mookie, and you kind of compare him with Manny Machado. Veterans that have been MVPs or certainly Hall of Fame players, but suddenly the power or maybe the batting average really declines.
I think it's an issue now. Mookie's had more illness, injury issues than Manny's had. But Mookie just doesn't look like the same player at home plate. I mean, there is no power, and his batting average is in the 220s. And of course he was hurt early. Last year he was sick in spring training. Took him half the season to get healthy. Then he got dinged at the end of the season. So, I'm not going to say Father Time has finally caught up with him, but you're correct. I mean, Machado, even though he's hit some rocket shot home runs, Machado's batting average is back down to 212. So what are we talking about in terms of the players those guys used to be versus where they are right now? I'd be concerned about that. And the Dodgers right now collectively are not the team the Dodgers used to be.
Say it ain't so, Lee. I mean, the Dodgers have been, the Hollywood's team. They nothing they could do no wrong. And now suddenly they're tripping and bumbling and stumbling. I still think they're going to get their act together. This team is just too good to collapse like this.
Except this team has got a bunch of dinged up pitchers, and this team's got a lot of age in that lineup. And this team will not have either one of those star catchers in the month of September and maybe even into October. Okay, you're a Dodger fan. Alarmed? Your reaction, what does Dave Roberts do? Or does it have to come from the players? Or is this just a byproduct of a lot of problems? Feel free. Fans Forum chat box is open. John, one last baseball note before we get here to halftime. A lot of things in the notebook.
Yeah, we do. We got the MLB notebook starting with the Yankees.
Yeah, this was quite a story that surfaced. If you have not heard it, let me just walk you through it. Legendary pitcher Tommy John has been moved into hospice. He's fought an unbelievable battle with cancer. It's obvious that his end is very close. He wrote a farewell letter to the baseball fans and sent it to the New York Yankees for distribution. Talked about his illustrious career. Now, Tommy John is age 83. He pitched for 26 years in Major League Baseball. Now, young baseball fans, modern-day baseball fans, will only think of Tommy John equals elbow surgery. Obviously, the legendary Dr. Frank Jobe performed the first ever experimental surgery on Tommy John, the elbow ligament transplant that worked. Tommy John pitched 8 years for the Yankees, 7 years for the White Sox, 6 years for the Dodgers. Amongst his 26 years in baseball, his record was .288 and .231. Just a phenomenal talent. But he's at the end of the road in life. So, I mean, it was. I read the letter. It was quite moving. What a classy gentleman. Tommy John saying farewell to baseball, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the White Sox, and the fans. What a name that I think we'll always remember for a lot of different reasons. Athletics. I don't think anybody saw this coming, but this is really a team that's fallen apart. They had such a unique season with all their young bats arriving simultaneously last year, hitting home runs, hitting for average in the small ballpark in Sacramento. I thought, oh, maybe they've turned the corner. They've utterly collapsed, 45-70. And they just fired the general manager, David Forst. He was the one that replaced Billy Beane. He's been there since 2015. Just a horrific pitching staff right now. Their collective ERA is 5.41 with the A's. They've given up 181 home runs this season. John, I just went through the game-by-game breakdowns of their schedule. 13 games this season, they've given up 12 runs or more in blowout losses. They've also lost games by the score of 23-4 and 23-9. That thing is a disaster. Now, it's been complicated because virtually every one of their big young bats has gone on the disabled list with injuries. Hit by pitch, fractured hand, bruised elbow, sprained knee. It's just been a miserable summer. 45-70 right now with the worst modern-day pitching staff I think I've seen in a long time. Bad news in Cincinnati continues to pile up on Hunter Green. Now, he was on the trade block. Padres looked at him. A lot of teams looked at him. They backed away. He goes out and makes a start right after the trade deadline, and they have to shut him down. Send him for another MRI. Bone chip in the elbow. They're going to do a third elbow surgery on Hunter Green. They don't know what his status is going to be for next season. San Francisco, miserable season with the guys in the lineup. They lose Matt Chapman. He's going to undergo emergency surgery, sports hernia. His season is done. And the New York Mets, they play, and for the most part, they lose. They traded all their pitchers away at the deadline. I went back and looked at the batting orders. I mean, they are paying wads of money. Francisco Lindor, $234. Bo Bichette, despite a good game here or there, $255. Marcus Semien, $213. Jorge Polanco, $136. and there was no Juan Soto. What a disaster of a season in that batting order the Mets have. So, John, that's what's in my notebook. We start with Tommy John, work your way from there.
I remember Tommy John, watching him on TV, pitching for the Dodgers and for the Yankees. And definitely in playoff games in the World Series in the mid to late 70s. And for me, it was a name, obviously the last name is John. So that caught my attention. I thought it was kind of funny that someone had a last name of John. But yeah, he was a hell of a pitcher, but we tend to remember him because of the elbow surgery. But to me, it's just very interesting because he is one of those, there's been so many guys like that have pitched for the Dodgers in the 60s and 70s that were never, Koufax and Drysdale, but they were like a notch or two below, but they were always like high quality pitchers. So, tip of the hat to Tommy John. Do you ever get a feeling about the A's, though, that this is the timing, all of it is suspicious? The way Jeff Fisher, the way he treated the team when they were in Oakland, now the way he's treating the team in Sacramento, he's preparing to move him to Vegas because he's been spending a little bit of money now. Maybe he needs to get that front office in order so he has a credible organization when he opens up shop in Vegas. What do you think?
I agree, because his reputation across Major League Baseball is pretty shoddy. The product was terrible. The product on the field was pretty much is equal to the bad product that the baseball stadium was in Oakland. Did nothing to try to salvage it because his eye was always on Vegas. Congratulations, Vegas. Look at what you're getting. Just like what you got when you got the Raiders. You've had no success there either. It's kind of messy. He needs a good baseball executive. Billy Beane stayed there. I've watched, I'm a big fan of the movie Moneyball. I've watched that 100 times. And Billy Beane married an ideology with lower budgets and succeeded for a short period of time, but in the big picture did not. And David Forrest was a guy who came out of the Billy Beane organization infrastructure. So they got a lot of work to do. They got to go find pitching. They just have no pitching at all. And like I say, their young lineup, which was pretty impressive last year, playing for Mark Kotsay, every one of those guys has been on the injured list. Okay. That's what we did at baseball.
Hey, Lee, one more thing. We talk about the Giants. What did you think of the Giants? It was either inducted their all-star infield into was it the Ring of Honor or was it the Giants Hall of Fame? I mean, it was Pablo Sandoval, Brandon Crawford, Joe Panik, Buster Posey. It was all part of that. That's kind of a pretty good group.
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty good run, pretty good team, chunky years. Bruce Bochy had a lot to do with that too. So, no, the Giants had a good era. The thing is, now it's gotten away from them because it's almost as if those players all grew old simultaneously, all retired old. And suddenly the Giants were stuck with some veteran contracts with big money and did not do a good job in terms of replenishing the farm system. But and that's a cycle I think you see in a lot of baseball cities with franchises do well for a long time, and then boom, you hit the abyss. And the abyss, once you get down, it's a long time to come back. I mean, just ask Angel Fan about that. Okay, we are at halftime. We've hit a couple hot buttons here. Padres, Dodgers, Baseball Notebook. Want you to jump on board. Fans Forum chat box is open. Halftime, the Monday Bonus Podcast. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. Tell you what, it is so bloody hot here. I think it's now 12 days in a row, John. The heat index in the North County has been 90 to 107. 12 days in a row. Thank you, doors. Thank you, windows in my house. You're probably saying the same thing in yours, all courtesy of what DIXIELINE Lumber is all about. John?
Yeah, I mean, I want to, when this video is done going, showing all the big doors and the nice, patio doors, the windows that DIXIELINE offers. I want to give you all a look at our front door because our front door is badass. We got it from DIXIELINE. And let's wait for this video to wrap up. There it is. There's our friends, DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. But take a look over my shoulder here, and you can see my front door. This is the back side of the front door. Look at it. It looks like a door in a castle. It's got the big rivets on it. And if you look closely, like right there, there's like a little speakeasy door that we can kind of open and peek through. And on the other side, there's like a big grill, so it just looks really kind of hardcore, kind of Gothic, kind of medievally. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. So, we're going to miss this house. And that's one of the things I'm going to miss are the doors and windows that we had from DIXIELINE Lumber.
My co-host, just pulled an adjective, or is that an adverb out of the dictionary, medieval. That kind of matches some of your opinions sometimes too from left field. But hey, you need doors, you need windows, you're going to need them in that house. Or if you're building something new, go to DIXIELINE.com to see all the things they have to offer. Hey, we are at halftime. Our Monday bonus podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber, 8 locations to serve you. Build it, fix it, guarantee you will enjoy it. Thanks to DIXIELINE.com. Halftime, still to come. When we are done with topics on the table, fans forum. Oh, I bet there's a few people got a few opinions about what we just talked about in the first half today. John, how do people watching us on live stream pile in so they can pile on in fans forum?
Yeah, pile in, pile on. There's people are filling up. There are a lot of comments about not just Don and Mud, but about their favorite broadcasters. And there's a lot of great commentary, even some talk about LA Galaxy and Chucky Lozano. So if you got a hot take, drop it in the live chat on YouTube, Facebook, or on X, and we'll get you involved with Fans Forum and hook you up with Lee.
Have you ever checked my website? Why have you not checked my website? I write sports every day of the week. It's their first thing every morning. LeeHacksawHamilton.com. You don't have to read the whole thing. The best 15 minutes in sports is the whole thing. If you're just a baseball fan, just read the baseball segment of the best 15 minutes. All you care about, news and notes around the NFL, go check the NFL headlines. What's going on in the NBA, NHL, auto racing, golf, soccer. I cover it all. And by the way, when you check my website for the best 15 minutes in sports, read my one man's opinion column. You got to read what I wrote about the Pro Football Hall of Fame speeches. That's there posted too. Again, it's all posted first thing every morning on LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And by the way, when you're there, register to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. That way you'll get 2 newsletters a day that John and I send out, be in your inbox, 1 in the morning, 1 in the late afternoon. Help us grow this podcast. Where's that button? Where's that button there on that laptop? Hit that button that says thumbs up. Hit the button that says follow. Or on Apple, give us a 5-star rating. It helps us grow this podcast. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will get the alerts every time we put additional videos and commentary up on there. And of course, want you to be with me on social media. You're on social media. I know you're on social media. I see your stuff on social media. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. Just type in my name, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Hit the follow button. That way then you can participate in the mini polls that I post. But check that website out because it's different. It's really different. Quit smirking, medieval.
No, but it's just funny because you're like complaining about Don and Mud and the theme games, and you're always like hawking LeeHacksawHamilton.com, the Lee Hacksaw Hamilton Insiders Group, getting people in Fans Forum. You're like a promoter. You're like one of those barkers out in front of a strip club at Tijuana on Avenue Revolucion. Trying to get people to. You're as much of a promo guy as Orsillo and Grant is.
Can I take that as a compliment or take that as an insult? Okay, we move on. Let's talk all things NFL because we know the National Football League. We cover it. John, let's talk about what happened on the steps of the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the weekend. I thought it was spectacular.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And great guys, but that speech by Drew Brees was something else.
These are the quotes from Drew Brees, the highlights from a 20-minute speech that I think was one of the best that I'd ever heard. We're talking about Brees' life at Purdue, Brees' life with the San Diego Chargers, Brees' career with the New Orleans Saints, and Brees on the front steps of the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. And, he talked about locker rooms. Football bonds people's lives together. Talked about his upbringing, small market Texas. I was hardwired to compete. He uniquely walked through what it's like to be a quarterback in the NFL. I love the rhythm of the game, the rhythm of the play call, the rhythm of the cadence, the rhythm of the audible, the rhythm of the snap, the rhythm of your footwork, the rhythm of your delivery of the ball, the rhythm of the pass play. Talked about his career with Marty Schottenheimer on the San Diego Chargers. He said Schottenheimer taught him one of the first ingredients of life in the NFL that he had never had before. Adversity is a necessity. You have to learn how to cope with when it gets bad. And he talked about getting badly hurt with the Chargers his free agent year when nobody would offer him a contract, and then New Orleans finally offered him a minimum contract. And, of course, New Orleans was feeling the after effects of Hurricane Katrina, and he said, I understood the feeling that the city had lost everything. And I got there, and I embraced the soul of the city, and it made it special. And he talked about Sean Payton, calling the man brilliant and understanding that Drew Brees, the quarterback, had to be an extension of Sean Payton, the coach, on the field. And then he wrapped it up by pointing around at former Charger teammates and Saints teammates that were spread all over, saying the life in the locker room leads to a life of friendships. John, I've heard a lot of sales pitches at the Hall of Fame ceremonies. This was riveting. This was really, really good stuff. It was really, really different. Now, I'll also say this. Larry Fitzgerald is a really special individual, the Arizona Cardinal wide receiver. And the best quote I took from him, without great players around me, I would not be here. He was so humble, and yet he was such a great superstar. Luke Kuechly, he says, the joy is not just winning games, but the joy is being with the people you win with. Roger Craig, my life was trying to prove I belonged. Now I do belong in the Hall of Fame. And Adam Vinatieri, who was all over the place in his long speech, popping jokes, popping cheap shots. What do you expect from a kicker? He said, I'm at the top of the mountain. This completes my career. Gentlemen, football's only temporary. Your family is forever. John Riley, I thought it was a spectacular. I watched all 3 hours of it. I normally do not, but I thought it was a spectacular series of speeches.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Brees, first class all the way, and again, an insight into his integrity and character as a man. And so you love the speech. I remember the one part of the speech where he talked about how, in a tape session after a game with sitting down with Marty Schottenheimer, and he didn't see a wide open receiver. And Marty asked him, how come you didn't see him? He was wide open. And Brees just said, I just didn't. And at that point, Schottenheimer said, we pay you to see the receiver. And at that point, that's when he got the message that I'm not going to be given any of excuses. And to me, he seemed to carry that, not just as standard for himself, but a standard for players on his team, that he expected that same level of excellence from those around him. So, I mean, what a dude. I mean, when he came here to San Diego, we thought he'd be a nice quarterback, maybe be a above 500 kind of quarterback. I never expected him to be a Hall of Famer, especially when he left San Diego with the injury. But, way to go, Brees, man. I mean, what a hell of a career, and what a way to cap it off. And just also the emotional comments he made about, New Orleans and how, his soul belonged to New Orleans, and he was going to do everything he could to lift up that city. So, wow, it was moving. Go ahead, Lee.
No doubt about it. To me, the most impressive thing that he learned as a pro, I think, with the San Diego Chargers, adversity is a necessity, because you're going to have adversity in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he went through the worst of all adversity with a catastrophic shoulder injury. He never knew whether he'd be able to throw a football again. 80,000 yards and 571 touchdowns later, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So cool. So cool.
Those stats are just mind-boggling. I mean, over 500 touchdowns. Can you imagine? That's just unbelievable. And then, Vinatieri, the joke he had about Pat McAfee holding his balls was fantastic. And I liked him. I think he was great. And Roger Craig, he's going through a CTE thing, and so he's being very open and public about it. And that's impressive. I just remember he was such a special running back for the 49ers. He didn't play much into the 90s, I don't think. I mean, he had that stretch run from about 83 maybe into around 1990, Lee.
Yeah, well, Bill Walsh was absolutely phenomenal in terms of creating things. We always think of Bill Walsh, Jerry Rice, Bill Walsh, Joe Montana. Bill Walsh Roger Craig. That was pretty extensive combo of success. Okay, you're an NFL fan. What'd you think of what Brees had to say? Was that the most entertaining 3 hours of acceptance speeches of the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Jump on board. Fans Forum chat box is open. John, here comes the NFL preseason. All the games start in earnest Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Everybody plays this weekend. Let's peek inside the notebook. The Rams have met and worked out Aaron Donald twice now. He had a separate workout at UCLA after having one at the Rams facility. He is not yet determined whether he's ready to come back to training camp right now for the final group of weeks before the season actually starts. They haven't determined the role yet. They did meet on Saturday, but at this point, he's not yet decided what his role should be. The other thing, Rams, who don't play a lot of their starters in preseason, are not going to play the starting quarterback, and they're not going to play Stetson Bennett, the backup quarterback to Matthew Stafford. That means Tyler Simpson, the rookie out of Alabama, the number one pick, he's going to take all the snaps in at least the first preseason game, so they're going to fast forward him just to see how he holds up. Chargers, they're getting ready for their preseason schedule. They're not going to play any starters. There's 15 veterans are sitting in the first game. They're going to play only one series in the second game, and they're only going to play 2 possessions in the third preseason game. Now, I find that kind of odd because you would think you would want to have Justin Herbert and all those skill guys get live action fire with the speed of what Mike McDaniel is going to try to run. Meanwhile, the thing to look at Thursday when the Chargers open in Houston, they got 5 different left guards. They're looking at all of them. They're trying to find the right guy. One of the guys they looked at, one of the guys they drafted was Jake Slaughter, a center from Florida, to move him over to left guard. He's really struggled. And I was always concerned. He's 305 pounds. I don't care how quick he is. How do you get a 305-pound guard hold up against those cement block defensive tackles and pass rushers, etc.? So Slaughter has, of all the guys at left guard, he's the one that's had the toughest time. And the one that has done the best is a kid by the name of Branson Taylor. Late draft pick, came out of nowhere. He's done better than any of the other newcomers. And then there's a holdover, Trey Pipkins, who was at right guard, right tackle, got benched both places. He's trying to make it at left guard. Raiders, they're getting ready to play. They had a little bit of a dust-up. This was something that happened at the end of the week, John. Max Crosby got into a fight with starting quarterback Kirk Cousins. You know, the quarterbacks wear red jerseys. In the Raiders camp, that means hands off. And Max Crosby hit Kirk Cousins twice on pass rush plays. And Cousins popped them, and they had to be separated. And then everybody kind of got into the shoving mode. They sat him on the weekend, did not let him practice on the field, but I think the message has been sent. I don't know why Crosby would take that liberty when the guy's supposed to be your savior. Kansas City, 2 storylines at this hour. Andy Reid saying Patrick Mahomes will not play any of the preseason games at all. Now, Mahomes has taken a lot of snaps with the number 1 unit. There's not seemed to be any setback, but he's not going to take any live snaps in preseason games, which to me is a little bit of a surprise. The other thing is good news. Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator, returned to the Chiefs camp today after being away for 2 weeks after his wife was seriously wounded by the mentally troubled son, Elijah Bieniemy. The wife has been released from the hospital and is now in home care. Cleveland, they got enough problems at quarterback, and they're furious. The Athletic, the New York Times sports paper, did a survey of anonymous general managers ranking all the quarterbacks in the NFL. Browns are really peeved at the GMs in the league. They rated the Browns quarterbacks number 31 and number 35 to start the season. Arizona, Carson Beck, pretty impressive. Hall of Fame game Thursday night against Carolina. Carson Beck went 15 for 19 for 188 yards. He was facing blitzes and pressures, moved the pocket, made passes on timing. I was pretty impressed there. And the Dateline is San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan said yesterday he wants to coach the first preseason game, even though he still has some outer symptoms of the concussion from that really bad auto accident. He's been bothered by light. He's been bothered by sound, but he's now taking part in team meetings. He is walking the sidelines with his players. He thinks he'll be good to go. Tough decision for John Lynch and the team doctors whether to let him participate. So, John, that's the latest. You want to talk Rams, Chargers? Take it from there.
I'll talk Chargers. I mean, did you see the video clips of Quentin Johnston, out there running routes with no defense and Herbert hitting him right in the hands and he drops it. And there's a big crowd there. Everyone's like, oh, but then, you think, is this the same old Quentin Johnston? But then I saw like a highlight reel from camp of Johnston making all kinds of catches. So maybe the Chargers social media team was doing a little bit of PR emergency work, to get a better brand image out there. I'd love to see Quentin Johnston finally live up to his, the reputation and talent and everything that they expected of him. He just seems to sputter too much, Lee.
John, he's got physical tools like you wouldn't believe. And he's got this inconsistency that just continues to pop up. He should be physically dominating any cornerback that he runs. Not let him push him off the line of scrimmage, not letting him jostle him. Come up with the tough catch balls, go into the traffic and make the calls and deliver the blows if you have to. So he still runs hot and he still runs cold, but you still see 15 yards per catch and yards after catch with him. I think he'll be the starter to begin the season, but we'll see what the tolerance level is if he gets a case of dropsies again. Keep an eye on Trey Harris, the rookie who I thought performed really well. Keep an eye on Brennan Thompson, who's a mighty little inside slot guy who's had a really good camp. He's kind of built like a fire plug. He's built like Darren Sproles at 5'9", but he can fly. And he's had a good camp. And then obviously they got all these different tight ends they're going to throw to. So see, that is what I find whole weird just about what Mike McDaniel and Jim Harbaugh have decided. We're not going to play our starters in these preseason games. I mean, how do you find any rhythm whatsoever against live fire competition if you're not letting them throw against these guys in the second and third game of preseason? I just question that.
Well, like you said, the Chiefs are doing the same thing. So, I don't really have much of a problem with it. They'll figure it out in camp. And by the way, if the Browns have the number 31 and number 35 quarterbacks in the NFL, which one is 31 and which one's 35 in your opinion? Is it Deshaun Watson?
Watson was rated 31, and that's a huge question mark as to what's left in his gas tank. And Shedeur Sanders is 35. And it's interesting because all these general managers took part in this anonymous survey for the New York Times, and they said you can't trust anything that Shedeur Sanders did last year because he's so erratic, and it was, my term is freelance football. I forget what the specific description they used. So you can't do this in the National Football League. You might have gotten away with it a little bit last year in Cleveland, but at the end of the season, he was turning the ball over. And Watson, I've got a friend of mine, a media guy that is out of that camp a lot. He says Watson looks miserable. I mean, his timing is off. He's throwing bounce passes. He's overshooting guys. His game's eroded. Of course, he's had major injuries there. So Cleveland, not only do you have winter coming, you got bad quarterbacks there too.
A long list of them.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, you got opinions. Jump on board. Fans Forum chat box is open for the NFL fans. John, next topic.
Yeah, some update on the Kawhi Leonard situation with the Clippers.
Well, story that broke over the weekend. We've been talking kind of in a gray area that the legal firm that was doing the probe of the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, salary cap circumvention, had discovered a third side deal that Kawhi had been involved in. Now we find out the details. A company called Daktronics, which builds video boards and computers for arenas, big scoreboards, ribbon boards in the NBA and the NFL and the NHL, evidently funneled millions of dollars to money to Kawhi Leonard. There's a big issue here because now you got Kawhi and the aspiration, issue worth $28 million. You got what they're saying is 10 to 20 million of sidebar money from Daktronics and a $17 million loan floated by Steve Ballmer and the Clippers that has never been repaid. So there's a huge issue here because whistleblowers are surfacing from each of these companies, including an employee at the Intuit Dome, who confirmed this Daktronics story that's being investigated right now. So the burning question, did the Clippers introduce Kawhi Leonard to Daktronics in addition to aspiration? I mean, are the Clippers guilty of putting the sides together, even if they didn't, quote, fund an illegal deal? There was an illegal deal, because that's what's being said by people that have now given depositions to this Washington, D.C. law firm. So that's one angle there. The second angle has been confirmed by the Lakers through the L.A. Times. The Lakers have given the NBA evidence that Kawhi Leonard and his uncle, Dennis Robertson, asked for 4 non-basketball payments, funds of money, for him to sign with the Lakers. And the Lakers abruptly ended the talks, informed him it was illegal and they would not sign him, and turned the evidence over to the NBA. So that's another story there. And the final story has to do with the passing of an icon, a legend, bright light, strange guy. Don Nelson's passed away. Former coach, Boston Celtics, Dallas Mavericks, Milwaukee Bucks, Golden State Warriors. Don Nelson, hell of a coach, passes away at the age of 86. Had a stroke 3 weeks ago. Don Nelson is the second winningest coach in the history of hoops to only Greg Popovich. Innovative, just really different. If you ever watched Don Nelson's team play the Denver Nuggets coach Doug Moe, these are two crazy men in terms of setting up offenses and letting it rip. They lived and died by three-point shots. That's what Don Nelson was all about. Won 5 rings as a player with Boston. And like I said, second most wins in the history of the NBA as a coach. Never won a championship, but boy, his team, really fun to watch. So John, what do you think about Kawhi, the Clippers, the Lakers ratting them out, and then about the coach?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how a deal gets done with Daktronics, because they're definitely the dominant company in the world of scoreboards and jumbotrons and everything in these arenas. I wonder if Steve Ballmer, when he built the Intuit Dome, was going to buy, Daktronics gear, and then they just kind of worked it out. Like, I mean, just hypothetically, it's a $100 million system, but he sold it for $120 million, and just so 20 of that can be redirected back to Kawhi. Do you think that's how the whole deal was structured?
Good question. Did the idea come from Ballmer? Did the idea come from Kawhi and his agent uncle? I tend to think Kawhi's got dirty hands in this deal too, in addition to the fact that maybe the Clippers are the ones that put him together. The general consensus around the league is they're both going to get nailed. I mean, there's a theory out there right now that Ballmer is going to be suspended for a year, and they're going to get a massive fine and stripped of draft picks. And Kawhi's contract is going to get voided for a year, and he may not be allowed to sign for a year, which means another year away from the NBA at age 35. I think they both got dirt on their hands.
Yeah, it's an ugly story, Lee. And as far as Don Nelson goes, I remember he would wear a fish tie sometimes. Remember those were kind of a thing in the 80s? And he was the coach of the Warriors when they had to run TMC, with Tim Richmond and who was the other one? It was Chris Mullin and Tim Hardaway, back then. And so, yeah, he was a great coach back in the day, definitely an innovator. And a sixth man for the Celtics. I know there's a lot of old timers who remembered him from the Celtics, but yeah, he's a special dude. And, even guys like Dirk Nowitzki have been really saying some, nice things about Dirk.
Yeah. And he just came back to the States. When he retired, he went to live in Maui. Actually, strange story. He went to work in Maui and bought property and had a marijuana farm. And
right on.
And as age crept up, he sold it and he just moved back. He just moved back and suffered really bad stroke. So this is not a good situation. It's sad, but he was 86. Hell of a life. Oh, man. You talk about free spirit. That's a free spirit. Wearing a tie with a picture of a fish on it. That's Don Nelson for certain. Okay, you got a basketball opinion on the Clippers, the Lakers, Kawhi? You view him differently now than you did before? What do you think is going to happen? Fans Forum chat box is open. We go from that side of the court to what's gone on the other side in the WNBA. Wow.
Hatchet job. I saw the play on Sophie Cunningham. That was brutal.
I don't know that Kathy Engelbert is long for this world as commissioner. She's at war with everybody. The latest situation involves a racial incident now involving a couple of players. Chicago Sky forward DeJoni Carrington with a vicious foul on a player, hard foul to the back of the neck and back of the head, and she got ejected from the game, finally, after the refs looked at the video, etc. She goes on social media and rips the refs for white prejudice, and the league has done nothing to discipline the Chicago Sky player. And you got that. You got Caitlin Clark, who's been victimized by a lot of cheap shots and a lot of insinuations that the league is favoring her because she's white. And then you got players sounding off, led by Sophie Cunningham, about the transgender controversy, with some players saying you must ban anybody that attempts to come into the WNBA after you test them if they're transgender. But other players sounding off and saying, this is a free country. We should be allowed to have anybody come compete in our league, even if they are transgender. And Kathy Engelbert sitting there with no way to handle the continued outburst from their players. And again, who's going to make the decision on transgender? That's the next controversial story in the WNBA. Is it going to be the commissioner? Will it be the owners? Will it be for input from Adam Silver from the NBA, who's had a lot of influence on the operation of the WNBA? Or will it be the Players Association itself that'll put up a fence and say, no, we do not want men who've become women playing in our game? John, what? They got so much controversy aside from the fact that games are so much fun to watch. Wow.
Yeah, that was an incredible takedown of Sophie Cunningham, and that had absolutely nothing to do with race. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm kind of happy in a way that some of these former NBA players are challenging the WNBA. Some of them are entering the draft. They're declaring themselves as identifying as a woman. And I think it's good for them to do this, to force the issue, because when you've seen some of these WNBA coaches in the press conferences, it's like they are afraid to tell the truth. This is a women's league and we need this league for women. We don't need men coming in and taking the spots away from women, but no one's really willing to say truth. They have to live in this sort of fantasy that we can allow anybody in this league. I mean, could you imagine, if a former NBA player was in the WNBA, it'd be a joke. It'd be David versus Goliath.
Yeah, very much so. And, the question is, who's going to make the decision? Is it going to be Adam Silver, who seems to have great influence in how the WNBA operates? Is it going to be her if she still has the job? And I don't know if she's going to retain her job much longer. Or just should it be the Players Association en masse? So it's a very complicated story. We've seen it a little bit in college athletics on the women's side, a little bit, not much. Obviously, it's a story. It's deep and it's very complicated. We'll see where that goes. Feel free, jump on board. You're a WNBA fan. It sure does take away the spotlight from the greatness of Caitlin Clark and all these other superstar players. Last topic on the table before we get to Fans Forum. We got hot headlines here, there, and everywhere.
Hockey hotline.
Hockey hotline is open for business. It has not happened yet, but the rumor is it might happen. A 300-goal scorer would leave the NHL and go to the KHL and play in Russia. Evander Kane, who's still an unsigned free agent in his mid-30s, has scored 339 goals. Blackhawks, San Jose, Edmonton, in Vancouver last year. He's negotiating to play for Akbar Sens in the KHL in Russia. Nobody with that type of track record as a star in this league, even though he's got a lot of miles on him, is ever going to play in the KHL with those credentials. See where this one goes. Ducks, huge issue. Everybody around the NHL is talking about what's happened there, what Pat Verbeek did and did not do, and now the crisis Pat Verbeek has right in front of him with the Anaheim Ducks. He's got to find a way to come up with cap space to sign 41 goal-scoring young star Christian Gauthier, because he let this contract situation with the other young star, Leo Carlson, get out of hand, let him get on the open market, and then was forced to match an $18 million a year contract forever to keep the star from Sweden. And the rumors everywhere is that Verbeek is now attempting to move 3 veteran forwards to clear something like 17 to 20 million in cap space. But if you trade Chris Kreider, Frank Vatrano, and Alex Killorn, notably Killorn, you're going to wreck your franchise. All you'll have will be rookies and young guys playing in all your front lines. They got a huge problem in Anaheim right now with that situation. Next situation, they are standing in line calling for the ouster of Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA. Norway, over the weekend, called for his immediate resignation. Today, UEFA, CONCACAF, and the U.S. Soccer Federation issued a letter of vote of no confidence demanding a vote as to whether he should be removed because he's broken his trust with all the side deals that he tried to make. At the same time, across the street, Mexico, Argentina, the African federations have all thrown their support to keep Infantino. So we are now almost on a border war between the Habs who want him out and those that have gotten money from Infantino that want him retained. Kind of ugly. And the last soccer story, we didn't like each other. And now there's a lot of reason not to like each other. I can't imagine SDFC fans are going to be real happy with this. LA Galaxy make the deal to get Chucky Lozano from SDFC. But San Diego has to pay virtually all $9.3 million that he's owed this year. They'll loan him for the rest of the season. And if he comes back for the final 2 years of his contract, they'll have to pay a piece of that contract for him to wear the enemy's colors. And trust me, SDFC fans go crazy when they see LA Galaxy colors. Terrible, terrible mishandling, terrible contract. I hope this does not haunt SDFC. Sure looks like it will. John, start with hockey. Corner kick me an opinion on Infantino and talk about Lozano. Is this going to bring this team down?
Yeah, I question what Evander Kane is thinking. I mean, after what happened to Brittany Griner, going to Russia and getting arrested and thrown into jail. I mean, if I'm a pro athlete, I'm not going to Russia. I mean, what's this guy thinking about, Lee? I mean, is he just trying to hang on and trying to get that last paycheck?
I think that's a piece of it. But understand this. John, you raise a really valid point, and I asked NHL people, why would anybody go there? Well, one, you get paid a lot of money. Jeff Glass, who is kind of a journeyman NHL goaltender, he's a goaltender coach for the San Diego Gulls, done a nice job. He went there at the end of his career. And I said, why would you go there? And he said, well, they paid me a lot of money. My family was allowed to come with me. It was a novel, unique experience to live abroad. And he said, I knew a whole bunch of guys on every one of these teams that is in the KHL. Now, somebody else told me, because I brought up Griner in the conversation, I said, that's different. She had drugs in her suitcase. That's against the law. As long as you don't do drugs, and as long as you don't comment on politics, you're fine. You're allowed to be a star. You're popular in that country. But if there's a positive drug test, you got a problem. Or if you make a comment about Russia, Ukraine, you're going to have a real problem.
Yeah.
But those are the provisos. But it's interesting. A lot of NHL players now. I wouldn't say established NHL players. They're talking about guys at the end of their career or guys that are lifetime American Hockey League players. Like the leading scorer of the San Diego Gulls, Justin Bailey, has just signed to go play in the KHL. It's one big payday. You're playing at an elite level. Maybe you come to the realization, okay, I'm going to be a career minor leaguer. I'm not going to get a chance in the show. Let me go over there, play in European hockey, etc. As long as you don't do drugs, as long as you stay out of the political conversation, as Jeff Glass said, it was a really great experience for me and my family. But you have to learn. That shows, John, that's a great question you ask for somebody with a medieval mindset that you have. But no, it's a very valid question.
Well, those rules, they could change at any time, I mean, those unwritten rules. And besides, Griner, she just had marijuana. It wasn't like she was, taking methamphetamines or something. So it was just kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't take the risk if I were an American, especially with all the political tensions in this world. And, Chucky Lozano moves on. Yeah, it's kind of good. He's kind of out the door. San Diego FC won last night. I mean, I haven't seen this team win in quite a while. I was looking at the table. They're like ranked number 13 out of 15 teams in the Western Division of MLS. And that's a big difference from last season.
Well, they've won only 3 of the last 18 matches. That incorporates everything. Tournaments, international play, friendlies, etc. 3 wins, 18 matches. So they got a lot of work to get done. We'll see if they can rally this thing back. So which street corner are you on? Are you with the U.S. Soccer Federation, the UEFA in England, or are you on the other street corner with Mexico, Argentina, South America, and Africa about Infantino?
No, yeah, I'm with North America and Europe because they got to kick this guy out. He's a corrupt dude. I mean, the reason that Africa and South America are voting for him is so that they can get in on the grift for the next World Cup tournament or some other big soccer match. So it's just all money, and it's just distorting the beauty of the game. This is supposed to be the beautiful game, right, Lee?
Yeah. I'll tell you, this is a really bad stain coming on the heels of how explosive and how much fun it was for 3 weeks to experience the quality of World Cup play. Okay, that's it. We've done our job. We put a lot of topics on the table, a lot of opinions. We want to hear what you've got to say. Fans Forum chat box is open. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. You got projects, they got materials. And this hot weather's driving me crazy. Thank goodness, windows and doors, I can say it, he can say it, because of DIXIELINE Lumber. Go to DIXIELINE.com to see what they've got to offer to you. To replace what's in your house, or if you're building something and renovating, think windows, think doors, think DIXIELINE. John, do I need a batting helmet to do this next segment? Or do you need a... Go ahead. Let's start. Here comes Fans Forum with the opinions.
Okay, well, we start at the top of the list. If you give us money, you go to the top of the list. Thanks, Matt DeBeast, for using the YouTube super chat feature. Hey, John, you who like less regulation for business. So I want to ask you if you support a cap for Major League Baseball, and how would you stop Kawhi's situation with Cohen? Yeah, it's a fair question. I mean, what do you think, Lee?
Well, no, he asked you. You're the one that wants this.
Right, I'll tell you what I think is, I'm definitely in the world of economics. I'm a free market guy, because the regulations usually distort things and make prices like tariffs and everything that's going on with the war in Iran is making prices expensive. And that's usually what those policies do, those regulations. But in this case, with when you look at sports, it's different, because in sports, the objective, I think, from the league's point of view, is that they want to have some sort of parity, some sort of competitive balance, that it's not like, Microsoft and Apple dominating all of the other, players in the league. I mean, in order to have a successful league, you need to have some parity. And so I think it's reasonable to have some regulations on salary. I'm more in favor of the salary floor than I am of the cap. I mean, the Dodgers are spending a bucket load of money. I like to make fun of them for it. I like to talk about how they have advantages that other teams have, but I'm not necessarily saying we need a cap in Major League Baseball. But I think from the commissioner's point of view, he should be thinking, how can Major League Baseball be more competitive with the other big sports, with the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, et cetera? And I think you need to be competitively balanced. You don't have one dominant team crushing it. So does that make me a hypocrite, Lee? I don't know. I think that they're apples and oranges in this case.
Matt raises a good question. I'm not in favor of a cap. I am in favor of a really strong luxury tax. And if the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Cubs and whomever want to pay that, great. That goes into the pot of gold with all the TV money that's now been put into the pot of gold and then divvied up. But I am a strong component. You want to own this franchise, and you're going to put a better product on the field because you're taking all this revenue share you need to spend. So if the luxury tax, which right now, John, kicks in at $244 million, everything above that is a tax. If the luxury tax kicks in at $244, let's come up with a number for Florida spending. And there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
Because all you need to do is you look at the NFL, which has the cap and has a Florida spending. You look at the formula the NBA uses. You look at what the NHL does because they got the same. Find a compromise to get to a Florida spending. So if the tax starts at $244, Florida spending should start at $180. And I don't give a crap about Kansas City and Pittsburgh and Miami. You can't put the money in your pocket because you're taking all my revenue share. You got to spend $180. And I guarantee you, John, if everybody has to spend at least $180, every good pitcher will wind up going to where the payday is. I hate to say Michael King would leave here, but Michael King might leave here if Pittsburgh or whomever from a smaller market makes him the best offer because they have to spend $180 million. It would make everybody's roster, everybody's franchise better because that whole next tier of free agents would shop and find the right place to go. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. I mean, that's why I like the cap, the floor more than the cap. And, we're even seeing like the Dodgers spending gazillions of dollars and they've been losing games left and right for the past week and a half. So there's no guarantee, but, if there was a Florida spending, then yeah, there'd be a lot more competitive bids on free agents that could drive those salaries up. So, it's the world of sports. I mean, you can think of each team as its own business that are competing against each other. But I don't know, I tend to think of it more as the entity of baseball is almost like a broader corporate entity in and of itself, just like the NFL is.
They got between now and it's not December 1st when it expires. That's actually spring training. They've got between now and February 1st to sit at a table instead of screaming at each other, salary cap or I'm going to die on the hill, trying. Find the components of the NFL, the NBA, NHL have and work and negotiate. Because there's an awful lot of money out there and all-time attendance records, all-time revenue streams, all-time TV ratings. Just distribute it differently. But Florida spending, a higher Florida spending and a strong luxury tax has to be it. I just don't think a salary cap is ever going to be put in place. Okay, that's a good question to get us off and running. John, next one.
Okay, Godzilla versus Megalon. Lee, loved your notes on pitchers making their way back from injury.
Well, thank you. I mean, I try to follow all these tidbits. John, I don't know what your email's like. I swear to you, John, I get 150 emails a day. And it is so hard to go through and clear out the junk so I can read the stuff that I want. But I network with a lot of people. But, this piece of data is important to people. I mean, diehard fans want to know about this storyline. And sometimes you have to dig and ferret it out. So I'm glad that fans like the depth, the nuance, if you will, of the stories, whether it's baseball, whether it's bad injuries in the NFL, what's happened, trade rumors in the NBA, that this guy going to Russia to play hockey. That's who I am. That's why we've been successful at what we do under the umbrella of topics on the table.
I mean, you do a hell of a job. I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, you do a great job. And I don't know why in the hell, like some of these newspapers around here or digital media platforms are not like syndicating your column or your best 15. I mean, you got some. Here's another comment on one of your written pieces. And this is from John. Streaming from the Adirondacks to the Outer Banks. Great piece on Drew Brees today.
Well, thank you. John's been a longtime fan. Doesn't even live here. But John used to live here a long time ago. But I like to write. And we all have different opinions. And that's That's the right of a columnist. Whether I'm a columnist on my website or a columnist on page one of your newspaper, you have a right to an opinion. You don't have to agree with that opinion, but guarantee you. Now, as a kid growing up, John, I used to go crazy to want to get home to rip open the newspapers. And again, I grew up in New York, where at one time they had 9 different newspapers. That was 9 different sports sections I would get access to. Rip open that paper, sit on the front patio, and just read what this guy was writing about the Yankees, or this guy was writing about the Mets or the Dodgers, or whatever. So that's who I am.
Those were good old days when the newspaper was the thing. I remember I was a paper boy for the San Francisco Examiner back in the day. But just to me, you ever follow Super 70s Sports on X? And he's got to be right around our age, and he talks a lot about poring over the sports section while you're eating a bowl of cereal, like in the morning before you go to school. And man, I just totally relate to that. So
well, it's different. We do have the internet, and we do have this now. And I understand it, but that's still content, and you still need people to put good content on those other platforms. So it's cool. I like to do it. I wrote columns for the Union Tribune for 6 or 8 months. It was kind of freelance, and I thought it was novel. But at the end of the day, they don't want to pay people, so everything kind of went sideways.
Yeah, the media industry is brutal. Okay, let's keep on moving. We'll go here to Flash Bainey. Hey, Lee and John, I think it's time for Adam Silver to take over the WNBA and also replace those WNBA referees with some competent NBA referees. Thanks, gentlemen. New Mexico strong.
Thank you, New Mexico. They've got problems in WNBA. Quality and the consistency or lack of consistency with the officials is really out of hand. I mean, a hatchet job fouls that are going on, and they're not calling them flagrants until they go to the sidelines and have to look at it, and then they have to debate. What are you not seeing that we're seeing watching these games? But the league right now, they're going through such a rocky time with just everybody's unhappy and angry at everybody else. And, I hate the cheap shots. Now I hate the racial stuff. Obviously, social media is slamming these young women, which I think is grossly unfair, although I'm of the opinion, ignore it. But how can you ignore it if somebody gets access to your phone number, your cell phone number, and harasses you that way? So WNBA right now is in just a real crossfire controversy on a lot of things. And it's too bad because, boy, the quality of play has just jumped so much in the last 3 to 5 years. It's phenomenal.
Have you seen the Angel Reese highlight reels? The quality of play ain't good there. Did you see the play where Caitlin Clark accidentally ran into the ref and then got teed up? And I think it's going to be suspended for a game. I mean,
well, they denounced the technical because it was an accident.
Yeah.
And so, because once you get to the 8th technical in the season, you get a 1-game suspension. It's called the Draymond Green rule. But Caitlin Clark had the 8th technical rescinded, so she's still out 7. But if she pops off, and she has a tendency to be a hothead, if she pops off and gets an 8th tee, she's going to get a suspension. But this one was kind of an unfair technical.
Bad look if Adam Silver becomes the commissioner of the W.
Well, no, he won't be the commissioner, but he will have access to make a recommendation. Because Engelbert I think she's done a really poor job. I think she's lost control of the league.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
let's keep on cooking. Our good friend Callan. Afternoon, gents. Saw a nice win by SDFC last night, though they have no chance of moving on in Leagues Cup. Hope to see you at Billy Ray's Memorial tonight.
Yeah, there's a special memorial service to celebrate Billy Ray Smith. It's over in Encinitas at the American Legion Hall. It's open to everybody. It'll be kind of a collection of a lot of broadcasters are going to be there. Scott Kaplan is going to do a podcast. I'm going to be on his podcast to tell some stories about Billy Ray. We think a number of Charger players will be coming. August 22nd is the actual memorial church service. At this point, don't have all the details on that, but so we'll revisit how unique a person he was. He was really, I wrote my column a week ago about him. Complete person, complete player too.
Yeah. Do you see how the Chargers are putting the BR sticker on the helmet?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was nice, but he was the San Diego Charger. He has nothing to do with the city of Los Angeles.
Man, BR, the old rascal. Okay, let's go here to Carlos talking Dodgers. The Dodgers are on a pace at their current record of 70 wins and 47 losses compared with 2024 and 2025. The reinforcements are coming. Snell, Glasnow, Will Smith, hopefully soon. Winning streak soon.
Well, we don't know when they give the ball to Blake Snell whether this is now free and easy Blake Snell with the numbness in his pitching fingers gone because the bone chip in the elbow's gone, or whether it'll continue to be hot and cold, streaky, a lot of pitch counts, 5-inning starts, Blake Snell. We don't know. We don't know about Glasnow. His history is gets back, gets on the mound, breaks down. We don't know about whether there's going to be a Will Smith sighting. They are now saying that the other young catcher, Dalton Rushing, is not going to catch the rest of the season. He's out. Maybe he'll be a designated hitter, but again, he's got a ligament damage in his elbow, so we don't even know whether that's in September or that goes till October. So there's some unknowns about the Dodgers. Now, they do have the comfort zone of the big record that they piled up to start. I understand that. But, John, there's only 7.5 in front of Arizona right now, and we still got 40-plus games to go. So see if the Dodgers can gather it back in.
I was having a hell of a time over the weekend, Lee, when the Dodgers were playing the Diamondbacks. I wasn't sure who to root for.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep on going. We'll go to HB949 Sports Jeff. Padres TV needs a high-speed sports wire in their booth.
Well, that's one vote for me. He must agree with me. I think those guys are great. But I think those guys have been overwhelmed by the demands of somebody else that hype this, sell that. Theme game, too much. Way too much. Especially when you got other really quality broadcasters who could have a lot more input over 9 innings about the other unique topics. There's so much to talk about. I think it's a disservice. Why are you not paying attention? Quality control. You need to go back and look at your broadcaster. You've allowed it to become a circus. And that's coming from somebody who has broadcast his whole life, who thinks he knows the parameters of what makes a good broadcast. And interplay between all these guys would be great. And comments on the content would be great. Not screaming theme game every 3 batters. That's one man's opinion.
Well, you remember when it was Bally's, and I think even before that it was Fox Sports,
Sure.
And they had the studio, where either it was in the ballpark for a while in the concourse, or it was, in the building, beyond the outfield. And they would go back to the studio sometimes and get updates. And that's when, who was there? Pomeranz was there. Sween Dog was in the studio. I mean, what they should do is they should hire you, Hacksaw. You could come in right where you're sitting from Hacksaw's couch. You could bring in some of the latest updates. You think that maybe we need to rally and get MLB TV and the Padres to hire you?
I just don't understand it when you've got Scanlon and you got Pomeranz, who could do the exact same research that I do. I mean, when Kyle Harrison struck out the first 8 batters in the game the other night, and there's not one comment about that because they're spending too much time theme gaming me about T-shirts and whatever. Geez, you're missing the potential to put other unique topics on the table. And I'm a Don and Mud fan. I'm not bagging on them, but I'm bagging on what the broadcast has been allowed to become. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I don't think I'm. No, I'm not wrong. I have opinions on everything. Go ahead, John.
Well, I think Do You Love It thinks you are wrong. He goes, hey, I'm Team Don and Mud. The promos they pitch are their job. The fans love them. Scanlon chimes in pretty often.
Now, Scanlon doesn't chime in enough for me because he's an intellect. And that's the kind of guy that you can come in and say, guys, can you believe what just happened tonight up in Milwaukee? Kyle Harrison struck out the first 8 batters in the game. Holy cow, what do you think about that? And then you get into this dialogue from all these guys who got all this experience and all the things they've seen. They're not doing it. They're not doing it consistently.
Yeah.
John, it's interesting. There'll be one game on a Tuesday night. They'll run a highlight from another game one time. And the rest of the week, I won't see any scoreboard updates or any highlights. So why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. There's no consistency.
Well, they must have a producer, right? That kind of,
Sure.
that, creates all this extra content and sort of decides what they're going to bring, what the show is going to be.
Exactly. You have a director, you have a producer, and you pre-package or you pre-arrange what you're going to do. But there's no reason when you have your sit-down meeting in the truck well before the game you can't bring up, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the firing of the Angels general manager. Let's talk about this 15-game Red Sox winning streak. You lay all that out, and then during the course of the broadcast, you bring it up and let these intellects who know baseball, who broadcast baseball, participate in a roundtable discussion while the game is going on.
You don't need to leave the booth to get to the intellects. All right, here we go. From Mike, he goes, hey, fellas, I have a question. Why did the Dodgers have an absolute meltdown of consecutive losses and sweeps? And oh, by the way, I loved it. Damn the Doyers. Screw the damn Doyers.
Well, at the end of the day, their power hitters are not hitting home runs with the exception of Ohtani. They have no production behind home plate now. And those two guys, Will Smith and Dalton Rushing, were hitting home runs. Mookie Betts is having a really substandard season. Freddie Freeman, although he's poking around 300, most of those are singles or doubles. There's nothing beyond that. Teoscar Hernandez has totally disappeared in the power department. He's got a lot of miles on him. So it's just not, at this point, there's just not enough guys doing enough in the batting order. And then you add on this whole injury thing is caught up to him. I really believe that Robleski is gassed. He's given up so many home runs. And Sasaki, although he's pitched much more consistently, that's a 4 or 5 inning guy, and you hope he doesn't have a bad start. So now we'll see what Snell's like when Snell gets on the mound tomorrow night. Obviously, they got Skubal. There's still time for them to really fix this, but there's reasons why they're in this hole. I mean, as I said at the onset of this podcast, I would have never, John, ever imagined these guys would have lost 8 of 9, 10 of 13, and 15 of 24. But they have. And I think that's the rationale as to why this has happened to them right now. Can they rally? Sure. Will they? Who knows?
Yeah, even the Diaz thing's kind of strange. I know he was hurt, but since he's come back, he's been getting lit.
Yeah. I mean, back to back. And they had to go to him as the closer because they had to go to Tanner Scott to bail him out of trouble in the 7th and 8th inning. Scott's pitching his shoes off. He's really done very well. Okay, Doyer fans. Damn,
Scott was terrible last year. Okay, let's go to Nicholas Mondragon. Hey, Giants fan here. Kruk and Kipe, definitely best baseball crew.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad at all. When they first got together, I think it was, what's the phrase? Acquired taste. It took a little while. Man, they grew on you. And I have always been a big John Miller fan. And this was before he became a Hall of Famer, before he became nationally recognized. I thought John Miller was great. I thought John Miller was Joe Morgan when they were doing the weekend games on TV. I thought they were fabulous. And then John Miller stepped away from it, and then he went back to San Francisco because he found that comfort zone. But no, Kuiper and Kruko, special people.
They are. I mean, they're just so beloved. And whenever you see the top rankings of the TV broadcast crews, they're almost always number one. And Don and Mudd are usually in the top 3 with them.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool how fans develop a relationship with the broadcaster, whether that's the radio guy or the TV guy.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting we bring this up because and I happen to think the Dodger broadcasts are pretty good, led by Joe Davis. He kind of gets a rap because he's on national TV. Are you with us or against us? But Joe Davis isn't bad. Now, they've gone through a lot of different guys in that color analyst thing, from Hershiser to other people. I think there's been a little inconsistency there. But obviously, on the radio side, it's very different. Tom Neverth is become one of their radio play-by-play guys. And obviously, Rick Monday is Rick Monday, and he is so beloved in L.A. But everything pales in comparison because we were spoiled for decades upon decades by all things Vin Scully on my TV and on my radio. So it's just different now. The Dodger broadcasts just aren't the same. But how can they be the same when you had God as your voice?
Yeah. John Miller is hella good. I mean, I remember when he came over from the Orioles, and I was really surprised by that. But boy, he's another Fort Frick guy, right?
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about the Dodger broadcast?
Well, it's what's that guy, Joe Davis, and he often does the national game of the week, and he's a Doyer guy. So you always see him talking about the Dodgers, but For the most part, I mean, I remember I lived in LA in the late 80s for a couple of years. And so I got spoiled, with Scully. But if I remember, wasn't Don Drysdale, he was on the radio too, or was he doing TV work? There was just a lot of really good broadcasters that have always been. And it's just because it's LA, it's Hollywood, it's Tinseltown. And then you got Chick Hearn and all the great ones there.
Very much so. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go to Texarkana Station. Fellas, I see people building condos next to Snapdragon Stadium, and I get nervous because I'm worried I'll never see an NFL stadium in that site again. Can they expand Snack Wagon to include the NFL?
Well, Tex, that property is owned by San Diego State. And all that construction that's going on, that was all prepackaged. When they got the vote, and their theory was, we are expanding our campus. It'll be San Diego State - Mission Valley. And they're building academic buildings. They're building business buildings. They're building dorms. And now they're adding on senior citizen housing. That was just announced this past week. There is no land to build an NFL stadium. So that's gone forever. And sadly, I just don't think with the cost of a stadium, the cost of land, and the cost to try to get a franchise, I just don't see who's going to pay the freight in this day and age. Sadly, a great NFL city does not have an NFL franchise anymore because of what the Spanoses did. So, but the packaging, all that construction, because I was down there just 2 weeks ago, and I was just floored with how they're filling up all the spaces and all that open property. But that was all prearranged. That was all part of SDSU - Mission Valley Annex.
Yeah, Dean Spanos screwed us. Chargers, no NFL teams ever coming back to San Diego unless something radical happened. But I'm looking to the future. I'm kind of optimistic about this whole San Diego State West campus. And, they got the trolley that connects the two. And I think it's going to be a vibrant place because it's not just condos, but they're putting in classrooms, research facilities, plus athletics. I mean, it's going to be kind of a neat destination point when they kind of get this whole thing finished.
I'll be enthused to see, or enthralled to see, what the student body count is. I mean, if you take everybody who's on campus, then you take commuters, then you take the independent study stuff and graduate programs. I don't know, they're going to wind up with 50,000. They're going to wind up with 60,000 enrollment in some form or fashion.
Yeah. I don't think the NFL is coming back, but I think it's good for the university.
Very much so.
Let's keep moving. Sports fan goes, hey, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, can you do more interviews with sports people like on Mighty 690? You should have a page on your website and have a resource info with a social media page.
Well, we've talked a little bit about expanding, but what people don't understand, the manpower hours to do what John and I are already doing, it's unbelievable. I mean, the amount of time I am consumed. So how do you add content without adding more work responsibility on top of what you're doing? I like what I'm doing right now. It's just really hard to think. And we've talked a little bit about, do we do more guests on this podcast, or should we just stay with what's working? I mean, our response in the 4 years we've done this is just absolutely phenomenal. So we haven't quite found a middle ground. But again, if you start adding guests, now you got to spend time to go chase guests and make the schedule work. It's so complicated. I did sports talk radio for 28 years. And I'll tell you, the volume of time it took to produce, because I produced my own show, booked my own show, did the live guests, did taped interviews when we couldn't get them live. It just ate me alive. There was so much responsibility. And you're sitting at home saying, okay, what 4 guests is he going to have on tonight? What's he going to do tomorrow night? And that was at my front door to create that content, to book those people, in addition to everything else I was doing in terms of research and topics on the table and the best 15 minutes in sports, and prepare to do NFL games and college games. Man, John, that was a lot of hours.
Well, yeah, and you did that before the internet too.
Yeah,
you were the internet before the internet. You know what I enjoy is like when you had Coach on this podcast, or when you've gone on to other shows to hook up with the old 690, 1090 guys. Just to me, that's like a family. For me as a fan, listening to you guys on the radio all the time, you guys are like our our uncles and cousins that we celebrate and watch sports with. So I love it when you guys get together.
Yeah, we do, and everybody's off doing it. Guys are scattered to the wind. Guys are all over the place. It's just tough to track guys down, make their schedule fit the ones that are still working. So we'll give it more consideration, but we kind of enjoy what we've kind of stumbled upon. And if you don't like it, just blame him, Mr. Medieval, because he's the one that came up with the concept.
Mr. Medieval. You ever see that scene in Pulp Fiction, Lee? Okay, let's go next to Joseph. Hey, Lee and John, if our Padres make the playoffs, which team would you least like to face in the opening round? The Cubs, the Phillies, or the Braves?
Well, you know what? It's really interesting. The Cubs right now are just raging hot, and they're finally getting all their beat-up pitchers. They've had a lot of injuries back. So that's one item. Philadelphia is just struggling. And that's even though they made transactions at the trade deadline. But the Phillies, outside of last night when Schwarber hit 2 home runs, the Phillies have stopped hitting bombs. So Philadelphia is not the quite same team if they're not hitting home runs. Atlanta, I mean, you look at their record, was it 71-47, I think, right now? And they're doing it with one established starting pitcher. They've had so many injuries, but boy, they hit the hell out of the ball. So if you're asking me who I would not want to face, being a wild card team, that means going on the road. I don't think I'd want to go play the Braves. And then maybe I would want to go play the Cubs at least early on, because the Cubs have got that thing really cranking, hitting on all cylinders. But we got another 40 games to go, so this whole thing's going to change yet.
Yeah, for me, the team I'd least like to see the Padres face are the Cubs, because PCA has just been hotter than hell. And then besides, the Cubs knocked the Padres out of the playoffs last year.
Yep.
So you'd hate to have to face them again, especially if they're going to get knocked off again. And the only way, as a wild card team, the Padres can get any sort of upper hand is if they finish in the number 4 spot. But they're like, 6.5 games away from that right now? I mean, there's no chance they're going to get the number 4 seed or the number 1 wild card seed.
Now we'll see where it goes. Joe lives in Brazil. Joe follows us from Brazil. Think about that. That's pretty cool. Okay.
All the babes in Brazil love hacksaw. Okay, let's go to Teamer 20. WNBA is a pathetic joke. It's not even about basketball. It's just a bunch of BS politics.
Yeah, Teamer's really gotten out of control. And I think the commissionership is weak. I think you need a stern hand. I think Adam Silver needs to do an intervention. But these players have to find a way to get along with the business model, because the business model is very successful right now. And I don't want to see any conversation about racial overtones, just totally. He agrees with the theme game proposal. Okay. John, we got any more people with different opinions about of Padre TV? Go ahead.
And I'm scrolling to find the next one to put up on the board, and I accidentally clicked on Teresa here, and she agrees about the theme game thing.
Okay. Well, agrees that it's fine, or agrees it's too much?
Probably too much.
Okay. Next one.
Did we get Richard in already? Yeah. Well, anyways, last time I checked, 162 games in the season. When LA has a bad, ugly streak, it gets much joy from other fan bases. It's clickbait for the national media. Too much tailnet to fail.
Well, I agree. There's an awful lot of talent there, but if their pitching staff's not healthy, and if they don't get some guys to hit, then this is not the same Dodger team that was 35 games above 500. The Dodgers are only 7.5 in front of Arizona now in the fight for the National League West. And the Padres are right behind them. But we'll see. We got 40 games to play. We'll see if the Dodgers, if Snell becomes vintage Snell, totally healthy, no breakdowns, no setbacks. And then who knows what September 1st brings us with Glasnow. That can change the whole equation. But right now the Dodgers are just not what the Dodgers have been, because they're really dinged up.
Yeah, they're going to be fine, Lee. They're going to be fine. Okay, let's go here to Casey. Hey, good afternoon, guys. Hacksaw. As for my Rams, you think Aaron Donald will come back? And do you think they get a veteran quarterback or go with Stetson Bennett and Ty Simpson?
They say that they're going to go with the 2 backups they have right now. And Bennett is not going to play in the preseason. I think this is preventative injury. Stafford's not going to play. So Tyler Simpson is going to take a ton of snaps starting this weekend for the Rams and probably will play preseason games 2 and 3, which means that'll be a great learning curve. Whether he does good or not, that's another question. But he'll just see things he's never, ever seen before, and then we'll get to make a judgment. Whoa, this guy looks like he's got some potential in future, et cetera, and they'll continue to coach him hard. There's not a lot of backup quarterbacks out there right now. Jimmy Garoppolo is still out there. He's intimated he'd sure like to sign somewhere if somebody goes down with an injury. Maybe they bring him back, but that would only happen if something happened to one of the 3 quarterbacks currently on the roster. Donald, this is a big jump. Can he physically do this? Because to be NFL ready is different than just being a guy working out on his own. And he's a workout fanatic. But being NFL ready to play at this intensity, having been away from it from 2 years, I think it takes time. So if you're asking me at this hour, I think he comes back and I think he plays. Maybe only plays as a third down pass rushing specialist early on, but he'll be in the regimen of pro football and they'll get him cranked up. I think he'll be back.
I think Ty Simpson's got a great opportunity in front of him, to kind of prove what he's all about. Because remember Stetson Bennett was there, and then he was out of the game for a while, was dealing with, was it mental health or something like that? And he came back, and see, you're not really sure who's the number 2, so this is an opportunity for Simpson to kind of seize the opportunity.
I concur with you. And we'll just see how he plays. I can't wait. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, everybody plays the first weekend now. The Hall of Fame game is behind us, so I'm intrigued to see how the kid Simpson plays. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's go here to social media. This is David. He goes, you mean to tell me that the trio of brothers actually existed and played minor league hockey and were terrors on the ice? Wow, one of the funniest movies ever made. I LOL just thinking about some of the scenes, most of which are scenes with the Hanson Carlsons. I don't know how many times I've watched this film. I have a copy on DVD. Great performances by everyone. Thanks for posting this. Kudos.
Yeah. I was there. I experienced it in the old North American Hockey League. And I swear to you, 85 to 90% of that stuff in that movie, that's absolutely true. It was great. If you've never seen it, just go to my YouTube channel and just type in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton Slapshot, the movie review, because we had clips on it and everything. It was so much fun. It was a really different era. And they made the Johnstown Jets, who were portrayed as the Charleston Chiefs in the movie. They made the Johnstown Jets a terror, and they rock them and sock them their way to the championship. And then those guys moved up, and 2 of them wound up in the World Hockey Association. One of them actually played in the National Hockey League for a short period of time. So, and that they are revered in southwestern Pennsylvania with the Johnstown Jets. This is absolutely phenomenal.
That's a cool part of your history in broadcasting. Yeah, it is. Okay, let's go here to a little Lakers talk, and this is with No Time. And he says, all I know, Lee, is that you and the media lose a lightning rod to spark up your ratings, and the mustard is off the hot dog. It's going to be a good season for the Lakers, but they will choke in the playoffs with no playoff experience. Losing Smart was stupid, and Philly is in for some winning times. Knicks and Celtics, you are on notice.
Well, I think the Lakers will be different. I think Kessler is going to be a rim protector. He's a pretty good passer. But they let a bunch of guys go who were explosive. Hachimura was a stroker. He could shoot it. And Smart was pretty good defensively. If they had retained some of those guys, now that they've added on three-point shooters. I mean, the guys they brought, Sexton from Cleveland and Chicago was a three-point stroker. One of the guys they got from Atlanta could shoot the three. One from Dallas is a three. I don't know that they're anywhere near enough defensive players. So they've tried, but I think losing Hachimura and Smart, that makes them less of a potential really great team. And at the end of the day, do you think the makeup of the Laker roster is equal to San Antonio and equal to OKC, equal to Minnesota? I don't think so. So Lakers will be much more competitive as long as nothing happens to Luka. And Luka, of course, had some injury problems last year. So, and in the East, yeah, they'll be excited. Now, there's only one basketball. Last I checked, the rule book says you can only have one ball on the floor at a time. How do they distribute the basketball in Philadelphia with King James and everybody else they've got there? That's going to be fascinating to watch. But, boy, Philadelphia is good and explosive.
Do you think the Lakers rookie Carr is going to maybe start or get a lot of minutes?
First guy off the bench. He can score. And John, lost in the conversation, he had a defensive charisma that was really, really good in college. And he plays big. He plays long. Is that the correct term? His defensive capabilities, I think, are going to be something worth watching. But I think that kid can stroke. I think he'll be the first points off the bench for them.
Okay, Lee, tonight is the Billy Ray event. I mean, do you have a story to share about Billy Ray?
Oh, my goodness. He made so many big plays at his inside linebacker position, and Billy Ray was not a prototype inside backer. Prototype inside backers are the Dick Butkuses of the world, monstrously big and physical. I mean, he was a physical specimen. He was a great athlete. He was so fast. And he used to tell me about game preparations and how he would line up in certain angles to try to decoy the quarterback into thinking something else was going to happen. And then he would jump routes and he would pick off passes. And, Billy Ray had 29 takeaways in his career. I think he had 26 quarterback sacks, and he was just steady and he was consistent. But he used to psych out John Elway. And this was at the height of Elway, Denver's great teams, the Triple Amigos, etc. And he'd line up with his footwork one way, showing a pass rush. And Elway would either audible out of whatever was called or run something different. And then Billy Ray would jump the route and pick off a pass, go in and score. And it happened a lot. It happened a lot in his career to a lot of different quarterbacks. So he was such a cool guy. He was a complete player at a position. He was a complete person too. So I think of him and my heart aches. I feel so bad for Kimberly Hunt because he was taken to us way, way too early. As I wrote, the last sentence I wrote in my column on my website about Billy Ray Smith, football was his life. Football took his life. That's the sentiment I have about 54.
Well, looking forward to tonight. You and Kaplan talking about Billy Ray should be great.
Yeah. Listen, we hope you've enjoyed this podcast. We pour a lot into this. Thank you for being part of it. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 8 locations to serve you. Think doors, think windows, think tools, think lumber. Go to DIXIELINE.com to see all the things they have to offer. John, take a deep breath. We'll see you come Thursday, and we'll talk to you also Thursday on this podcast. As always, great job, John, as medieval as you can be sometimes with your opinions from left field. And thank you for being with us. Always great to have you part of our team on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.